Here's what a tort is. It's a civil, as opposed to criminal, legal injury. In other words, the law doesn't honor all injuries, only the ones that the law recognizes. So, you hurt my feelings. That was a mean thing to say. Not a legally recognized injury most of the time. It occurs when we owe someone a duty. Like, do we have a duty to stop at stop signs? So we can commit a tort when we fail to fulfill that duty and drive through a stop sign and injure someone. That's a tort. The party who's claiming they were injured is the plaintiff. And the party they're suing, the defendant, the one who allegedly created the injury, is called a tortfeasor. And although the objective talks about 2 categories of torts, there's really 3 types of torts that we're going to talk about today. Intentional, unintentional, and strict liability. All right, negligence. Talked about intentional torts. Negligence means unintentional. And one of the objective questions that you were asked is, what's needed for negligence? What are the elements of negligence? And that's on the next slide. If you're busy writing, this is probably more important right here. In negligence, you have to show a duty to the other person. Do you owe a duty to prevent anyone from any kind of harm? Remember the last episode of Jerry Seinfeld? Anybody see that? Remember the Seinfeld episode where weren't they jailed or something for violating some law? You know, whether we owe a duty to everybody, prevent them any kind of harm, generally we don't. So let me give you a scenario. I'm walking down the beach. You're drowning. Do I have an obligation to save you? No? Anybody say yes? Well, you know, back to that Seinfeld episode there? Or witnessing a crime? No, you're just drowning. Not a crime. I'm walking by. You're like, blow, blow, right? Well, there is a statute that deals with that. But not drowning. Not that I know of. Right, not that I know of. Yeah. Yeah. The answer is it depends. Right, I'm walking down the beach, I'm a lifeguard. Then I don't go, oops, sorry, I'm on break. Get back to you in a few minutes. Can you tread water for a little while? Right? But just generally, I mean, why do you guys say no? I mean, what if I don't know how to swim? This could be a problem, right? Or even if I do know how to swim, the person's drowning because sharks, undertow, something is causing a problem here, right? So why should I put myself in harm's way? Now, morally or ethically, you might feel like you have an obligation, but the law doesn't say you owe everyone a duty to prevent any kind of harm to them. So, if it's my job, yes. If I put them in harm's way, hey, which way to the hot dog stand? That way, hee hee, and they go in and they're drowning. Or it's my kid. Sorry, I know I don't owe you a legal duty, so hang in there, right? So, in some situations, when I have a relationship of some kind, then I owe a legal duty. I'm driving down the road. Do I owe a duty to protect all motorists from any kind of harm? No. What kind of harm do I owe them a duty? The kind that I would cause, right? So I have to control how I drive so I don't harm them. So duty is the first thing you need. Then you need a breach of that duty. So let's say I owe... Did I ever tell you the Jeep story about me driving on the sidewalk?
Not the one about you driving over your babysitter's car.
Oh, okay. This is another time. First day of classes this summer at the MTech downtown here. I'm at this intersection, and when the Amtrak train comes and parks downtown there, it backs up traffic for miles, right? So I'm sitting there. It's getting late for class. I can't get there. All of a sudden, I do the calculation. Sidewalk this wide, Jeep only this wide, right? So I very carefully looked to and fro, and then whoop, zoomed down the sidewalk and then went around the corner. No one was turning the corner. They were all just sitting there, right? So do I owe a duty to people walking down the sidewalk? Sure. And so if something had happened, that would have been my problem. Don't do that, by the way. That's bad. That's bad. Don't do as I do. They have to suffer an injury, and also important is causation. Now I'm going to share another Jeep story with you, and I only do this because I want you to learn from my mistakes and not do as I do, right? Although I haven't met anyone to do what I did. I used to commute back and forth Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids, and one of the problems with, I'll just make a generalization, men never stop to get gas unless, it's on fumes, right? So I would always try to see if I could get back and forth without having to stop. Besides, between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, there's Wayland. I think that's it, right? So I'd always just try to get back. I know there's other places, but anyway, shorten the story here. So I kept running out of gas. Well, first thing I do is I go out and get one of those plastic gas cans. But then I got to walk with a gas can to a gas station somewhere and come all the way back, right? Or get a ride. Right? And I'd rather walk 10 miles than ask someone for a ride anywhere. Right? So I go to Farm Place, weird commercials on TV. No, Implement. So, what? Tractor Supply, yes, Tractor Supply store. And they say, we got an idea for you. How about a jerry can? I'm like, what is that? These steel cans that you can fill them up with gas, right? I'm thinking, I've seen these on TV, Safari, whatever. Put that thing on the back of your Jeep, right? So the problem is, I get home and I realize that I have a Jeep Liberty, which isn't a real Jeep. It's just a pretend type Jeep. And in the back is a spare tire in the middle, and I can't get the can on there, right? So I fashioned this really cool platform, and I mount the gas can on the front, right? And I'm driving to Grand Rapids. I get to the S-curve. Traffic's backed up, and guess what happens on one side of the S-curve when traffic's backed up? All the gawkers on the other side see it. They all back up. Big accident. I come around the corner. It's slippery. I run into a lady, and it causes a little fire with a gas can. Now, when I put this gas can on the front of my vehicle, did I intend to ram an old lady? No, it's not an intentional tort. When I strapped this gas can on the front of the vehicle, was I thinking to myself, I could run into an old lady? No, I wasn't. All right? Should I have thought I could have run into an old lady? Yes. So that's part of what causation is about. Even though I didn't intend the harm, I was negligent because I should have known that something like this could have happened. Right? Now the other part of causation is how proximate it is. Now here's what I mean. If I didn't actually catch, no old ladies were burned during this thing, right? Just the vehicle got a little black. So if I injure the old lady who's in the vehicle, not from fire, but she gets whiplash, am I responsible? A vehicle next to it catches on fire, am I responsible? This part didn't happen. National radio station picks up this story, broadcasts it. Some guy's in Nebraska drinking hot coffee, laughs so hard he spills coffee in his lap, burns himself. Am I liable? Why not? Because my negligence is not the cause of his injury. It's not foreseeable that that could have happened. So anybody want to know what happened to the lady? I just made that story up. How many people thought I did that? Yeah, come on, you did. Like, you're stupid. You're like stupid enough.
Oh, no, that's nice.
All right. So, duty, breach, causation, and harm. Sometimes we owe a higher duty, like attorneys. You come to them for legal advice. What if later they go, well, okay, so I didn't know the law. I gave it a good shot. Or an accountant. Here's my taxes, and they really screw it up, right? Well, other people might have made a mistake. Well, no, you owe a higher burden in that case. You owe a higher duty. And we talked about injury and causation. Defenses. Assumption of the risk. There's some things you do. When you do it, there's risk. Like what? What kind of things might you do that there's going to be a risk of harm? Skydiving is a good one. Bungee jumping. Smoking. They warn you about that before you do it. What else, Sam? When you go to watch I don't watch NASCAR, but you go watch a NASCAR event, what are some of the risks that you might assume? Right, very loud, that you might sit by someone who's drunk and ignorant. What about a tire flying at your head? People have been killed by that. So that often becomes the issue. Well, you should have known when you come to this kind of event, baseball game, that you might have been beamed on the head. That's why you see lots of signs about stuff like that. Superseding intervening cause. I just like to say that. You're out on a ship. There's not enough lifeboats for everybody. But so story's been told before. All of a sudden, lightning strikes and it blows up. Right? It doesn't matter how many lifeboats were on there, right? Some superseding intervening cause came along, and it didn't matter whether someone was negligent or not, caused the harm. All right, but the big one you guys should know is contributory and comparative negligence. Under both these theories, the defendant argues, well, the plaintiff was also at fault. So you're late for school. I'm walking across the crosswalk within, I got the walking guy. I'm within the crosswalk. I'm not doing anything wrong. And you are going too fast and you hit me. Who's at fault? The driver. Now, I'm jaywalking and you didn't see me. Who's at fault? The driver and maybe me, right? How about I'm in a black ninja suit. It's dark. I jump out from between two parked cars to see if you will stop. Who's at fault? You see how the plaintiff can also have some responsibility for this thing? Well, in a few jurisdictions, if I'm at all at fault, then I don't get to recover. I can't run around jumping in front of vehicles and then trying to recover. In comparative negligence jurisdictions, they compare the degree of negligence of the plaintiff and the defendant. If the plaintiff is less than 50% at fault, then they can recover. So if I'm jaywalking, but you're more at fault because you were driving too fast, it's slippery, it's dark, too fast for the conditions, then I can recover less how much I'm at fault. If I'm more than half at fault, I'm in ninja suit, jump out, probably more than 50% at fault, I don't get anything. Now, the goofy thing about this really is, all right, how much is jaywalking? What percentage is jaywalking? Is it? So if anyone's outside the crosswalk, you got license just to hit them? Like you can punch it? I don't know how that really works with juries. It's like, okay, black ninja, 60%. Jaywalking, that's another 10. I don't know how that all breaks down. Basically, I think what they do is just say, who is more at fault, plaintiff or defendant? Because I don't know how this works out. There's a guy, he's drunk, he falls asleep at the wheel, he wakes up at the last moment, overcorrects, axle breaks in his truck, he rolls over, seatbelt breaks, he falls out and he's paralyzed. Who's at fault? Yeah, that's what they said. They said even though the axle was defective and the seatbelt was defective, none of it would have happened if he wasn't drunk and fallen asleep.